You ever watch a single player so violent and brilliant it feels like he's playing with invisible handcuffs, doing everything right while everything else around him collapses? That was Myles Garrett on Sunday. He wrecked drives, ruined quarterbacks, and then, after breaking the Browns' single game sack record with 5 takedowns, he slammed his helmet in frustration on the sideline like a man who just run a marathon while his team forgot to show up for the race. Rotors, let's rewind the tape. Garrett was a terror all day. He finished with 5 sacks, a franchise mark he previously shared with himself, and everyone came with that same look. Eyes locked, shoulders low, intent unmistakable. Yet the scoreboard read Patriots 32, Browns 13. That gap between individual dominance and team failure is the whole cruel movie playing out here. One Hall of Fame caliber performance that couldn't cover up a roster and game plan that kept unraveling. ESPN.com. Why did Garrett's masterpiece not translate into a Browns victory? Start with the offense. Dylan Gabriel's day was jittery, flashes of connection sandwiched by turnovers and stalled drives. The Browns kept putting Garrett's pressure on May and the Patriots, but Cleveland's offense repeatedly failed to flip the field or turn momentum into points. When a defense plays like Garrett's did, you need at least a handful of short fields, special teams help, or offensive punches to cash those moments in. Cleveland didn't get them. The Patriots, conversely, were efficient and opportunistic, and Drake May bought time in the second half to rip the game open. ClevelandBrowns.com. Drake May was the counterpunch. He carved the Browns up in the third quarter, 3 touchdown passes in that stanza alone, turning what had been a tight primer into a control job. When your offense gives up 3 back-breaking TD drives and your own offense coughs up the ball or stalls, not even 5 sacks can overcome that kind of swing. Football's a team sport. It's the cruelest sport when one player looks like he's carrying the weight and everyone else is walking with grocery bags. Reuters. And then there's Garrett's reaction. The helmet slam and the isolated sitting on the bench. That image stuck because it's raw and human. A blue-chip competitor pouring everything into a game and then sitting in stunned silence while the team around him implodes. It wasn't theater or an attention grab. It read like exhaustion and anger. At the loss, at the missed opportunities, maybe at a season that keeps slipping away despite his elite play. Fans love that grit. They also hate seeing it wasted. Yahoo Thethau. This performance deepens Garrett's individual narrative. Elite pass rusher, consistent sack machine, a player stacking historic metrics even when wins are scarce. Those 5 sacks upped season totals and added another bullet point to a resume that already belongs in Canton conversation. But there's a contextual flip. How much more meaningful are personal milestones when they come in a 2-touchdown loss, when playoff hopes dim because the roster around him can't sustain a full half of complimentary football? The answer is obvious. Milestones matter, but wins matter more. CBS Sports 4. So what does Cleveland do next? The schematic and personnel fixes are predictable but urgent. The offense needs to find consistency. Quarterback play that protects the ball and sustains drives. An offensive line that can create rhythm, and a running game that can chew clock and force defenses to respect more than just Garrett's presence. Turnovers and third down failures are the rot that ate this game. Cleaning those is job 1. On the other side, you can't do much better than Garrett rushing the passer, but you can scheme to make his life easier by converting pressure into points. Short fields, quick strike answers, anything that turns sacks into scoreboard dividends. ClevelandBrowns.com. There's also a leadership and cultural angle. Garrett's visible frustration is a message. A superstar can fight, scream, and sack. But if the team's DNA isn't aligned, if coaching choices, play calling, or schematic identity keep undermining the effort, locker room patience evaporates. The Browns brass has to reckon with that reality. Do you double down on building around elite defenders like Garrett, or do you accept that offense-first fixes must come faster and deeper? The roster construction questions that once sounded theoretical now have deadlines attached. ClevelandBrowns.com. Let's be honest, individual greatness without team support is a tragic storyline in sports. The nightly highlight reels will show Garrett destroying protection and spinning away from linemen. They'll loop the helmet slam and the lonely bench shot. But in 3 months, What will matter more is where Cleveland stands in the playoff hunt or whether this game becomes another what if on a tape of near misses. For Garrett, the record is real and historic. For the Browns, the loss is another prompt that talent alone won't fix systemic issues. NESN.com, if you're looking for a silver lining, painful as it is, it's this. Garrett's dominance exposes the ceiling. When your defensive alpha can produce 5 sacks and the team still loses by 3 scores, the diagnosis is obvious and perversely clarifying. Fix the offense, protect the ball, and the Browns can actually leverage performances like Garrett's into real momentum. Ignore the signals, and you'll keep getting the same film. Brilliant flashes, familiar ending. ESPN.com, closing thought. Watching Garrett on Sunday felt like witnessing a masterpiece painted on the side of a moving bus. Stunning in the moment, but doomed to be scratched by the road. He did everything he could. Now the Browns have to do everything they can to stop the next scratch. Otherwise, we'll keep applauding his brilliance and asking the same empty question. What more can one man do? What do you do when one man turns the game into his personal highlight reel and your team still gets embarrassed? Picture Myles Garrett ripping the quarterback's jersey, piling up sack after sack, then sitting alone on the bench and slamming his helmet like the world just stole something from him. That's what happened Sunday in Foxborough. Garrett poured in a franchise record 5 sacks, and the Browns still lost 32-13. ESPN.com, he wasn't showboating. He was violent, precise, unstoppable. 3 sacks before halftime, another in the third, then the 5th that officially broke the Browns' single-game mark. Those plays weren't lucky. They were schematic and physical. Owen classical pass rush moves, hand fighting at the line, and a relentless motor that hunted the quarterback the whole afternoon. Garrett finished with 5 sacks and left the stat sheet screaming history, even though his team couldn't turn glory into a win. ClevelandBrowns.com. Here's the part that makes you pause. When the best player on your defense leaves the field and his face says frustration instead of triumph, it tells you the problem isn't effort, it's structure. Garrett's fury, the helmet smash and the lone bench posture caught on camera, wasn't theater. It was exhaustion. The defense kept giving everything it had, but the offense couldn't sustain drives, mistakes piled up, and the Patriots kept responding in the third quarter with a sequence that turned the game. Drake May threw 3 touchdowns in the third, and New England flipped the momentum into a rout. Let's be tactical for a second. How does 5 sacks not win you a game? Because sacks matter most when they change the scoreline and the possession map. Garrett's pressure created stretch plays and stalled drives, but Cleveland's offense failed to flip those defensive successes into points. Missed field goals, short drives, turnovers, the Browns couldn't convert the stops into scoreboard advantage. Meanwhile, the Patriots answered Garrett's heat with explosive plays, productive third down conversions, and 2 key interceptions that bought them field position. When a defense buries itself in the stat sheet but the offense goes 3 and out, the clock still runs out on you. ClevelandBrowns.com. There's another layer. Context matters. Garrett is one of the most feared edge rushers in football. He's piled up sacks for years, and Sunday continued a run that peels back the numbers. He's now extended a streak of double-digit sack seasons. He's climbed the career leaderboard, and his performance still didn't change Cleveland's trajectory. That's a brutal scoreboard paradox. You want your superstar to single-handedly swing games. Football just isn't designed that way anymore. A pass rush can alter momentum, but it can't run your third down offense or field goals or red zone execution for you. CBS Sports. So what does this mean for the Browns in the near term? First, coach and offensive staff audits are inevitable. If the defense gives you a chance to win, the offense has to take it. Fewer conservative play calls, cleaner protection plans, and an honest assessment of quarterback play and play caller creativity. Second, locker room temperature will matter. Garrett's visible anger is a message to the organization. It's not acceptable to perform like that and lose. That kind of public frustration can be galvanizing or corrosive. How Stefanski and the veterans channel it will determine whether it becomes fuel or a wedge. Newsweek now, the league-level read. Performances like Garrett's are the reason contenders keep players like him around. Game to game, you want that impact. but nobody's going to confuse defensive heroics for a complete product.